When people hear the word cancer, one of the first things they start worrying about is food. What should be eaten? What must be avoided? What helps recovery? And what might make things worse? At that moment, many people become vulnerable to extreme advice. Some are told to stop eating carbohydrates completely. Some are told to drink only juices. Others are told that one supplement or one special food can change everything. But cancer nutrition should never begin with panic. It should begin with balance, clarity, and a realistic understanding of what the body actually needs. The body needs energy to endure treatment, strength to protect normal tissues, and enough nourishment to support daily recovery. That means food is not only about trying to starve disease. It is also about protecting the person who must live through treatment. One of the biggest misunderstandings involves carbohydrates. Many people hear that cancer cells use sugar, so they conclude that all carbohydrates must be removed. Rice is reduced, bread is eliminated, fruit is feared, and meals become smaller and smaller. But normal cells also need fuel. The real question is not whether carbohydrates exist in the diet. The real question is, what kind of carbohydrates are eaten, how quickly they are absorbed, how much is eaten at once, and what foods are combined together in the same meal. Fast-absorbed foods can create large swings in blood sugar and may leave the body feeling more unstable. Very refined starches, sweet drinks, sugary snacks, and heavily processed foods are often easy to eat in large amounts because they are soft, sweet, and fast. That does not make them safe as a daily foundation. Slower foods tend to create a steadier pattern. Vegetables, less refined grains, beans, and meals built with more fiber. And protein can slow the overall pace of absorption. This is why meal structure matters so much. It is often more helpful to begin with vegetables, then move to protein, and leave the main starch portion until later in the meal. That simple shift can change how heavy or unstable the body feels after eating. It also helps explain why food quality matters more than fear. The goal is not total restriction. The goal is to make the body less vulnerable to large swings and to preserve steady, usable energy. Another common mistake is looking for one magical food. People ask what food cancer hates, what food will stop growth, what single ingredient can protect the body. But the body does not respond to one ingredient in isolation. It responds to patterns. It responds to the total rhythm of eating, sleeping, moving, digesting, and recovering across the day. So instead of asking for one miracle food, it is often more useful to ask whether daily meals are stable, varied, and realistic enough to support recovery over time. Processed foods deserve special caution. Highly sweetened, highly salty, greasy, and heavily manufactured foods often become common choices because they are familiar and easy to eat. But when they become the center of the diet, they can move eating farther away from a recovery-oriented pattern. Processed meats, heavily fried foods, packaged sweets, sugary beverages, and meals built mostly from refined flour or sugar are often poor foundations. The problem is not only that they are unhealthy in theory. The deeper problem is that they can replace better choices. While giving the illusion that enough food is being eaten, feeling full is not always the same as being nourished. So what does a steadier cancer nutrition pattern look like? In many cases, a practical base includes vegetables, beans, less refined grains, and enough protein to maintain strength. Brown rice, mixed grains, tofu, plain soy foods, fermented bean foods, soft-cooked vegetables, soups with real ingredients, and simple home-cooked meals are often easier to build into a consistent pattern. Diversity matters. No single vegetable contains everything. One meal cannot do all the work. A stable pattern comes from rotating different vegetables, different textures, and different sources of protein while keeping meals simple and repeatable. Soy is one topic that worries many people, especially those concerned about breast cancer. Fear around soy is common, but it can easily become exaggerated. Plain soy foods, such as tofu or unsweetened soy milk, are often used as practical sources of plant protein. The more important distinction is not panic versus permission. It is simple traditional. Soy foods versus heavily sweetened or highly processed products. The same rule applies to many health foods sold in stores. If a product tastes unusually sweet, smooth, or easy to drink, it may contain more sugar or additives than people expect. That is why labels matter. Another subject people misunderstand is fat. Some assume all fat is harmful, while others become obsessed with special oils. The truth is simpler. The body needs some fat, but quantity and source matter. Heavy animal fats and very greasy meals can be hard to tolerate, especially when digestion is already fragile. Small amounts of carefully used plant-based fats may fit better, but even healthy oils are still dense and should not be treated like medicine. They are part of a meal, not a cure. Fruit also deserves a balanced view. Fruit has benefits, but because it is sweet and easy to eat, portions can quietly become too large. Large amounts of fruit eaten alone or fruit taken mainly as juice may not be the best approach for every patient. Smaller portions, eaten as part of a larger balanced meal, are usually easier to handle. Blended or juiced forms can be especially tricky, because fiber is reduced and absorption becomes faster. Up to this point, these ideas apply best when a person can still eat relatively well. But cancer care often includes periods when eating becomes extremely difficult. Nausea, mouth sores, taste changes, bloating, pain, diarrhea, constipation, and deep fatigue can all reduce appetite. During these periods, one of the most harmful mistakes is trying to force the same ideal diet that was recommended for stronger days. A person who can barely eat may not be helped by strict food rules. During difficult treatment periods, the priority may shift from optimization to preservation. The goal becomes maintaining intake, preventing severe weight loss, and helping the body tolerate treatment. This is where flexibility becomes essential. Soft foods, smaller meals, mild flavors, and more frequent eating may work better. Smells may need to be minimized. Temperature may matter. Some people tolerate cool foods better. Others do better with warm, soft soups. Some can only manage a few bites at a time. In those moments, reality matters more than perfection. Some people become committed to a very strict plant-only approach, even when their intake has fallen dramatically. But if total intake becomes too low, if strength visibly declines, if body weight drops quickly, or if blood test markers worsen, the eating plan may need adjustment. When plant protein cannot be consumed in enough quantity, more easily tolerated protein choices may need to be considered, depending on the person's condition and medical guidance. The best diet on paper is not always the best diet for the patient in front of you. Cancer nutrition must be individualized not only by diagnosis, but also by appetite, digestion, treatment stage, energy level, and what the body can realistically tolerate that week. Caregivers also need to hear this clearly. One of the most painful conflicts in many families is around food. Family members worry, so they cook with love and encourage the patient to eat more. The patient feels guilty, tries to eat, and may end up in pain or nausea afterward. This cycle creates frustration on both sides. Eating difficulty is not a character flaw. It is often the result of treatment effects. Digestive irritation, inflammation, pain, or profound fatigue. So the right response is not pressure. It is observation and adjustment. What texture is easiest to swallow? What smell is easiest to tolerate? What portion feels possible? Is the person better with very small meals? Is there a time of day when appetite is a little better? These questions are more useful than demanding that a patient finish a large meal. There is another area where confusion grows quickly, and that is supplements, especially vitamin C. Many people assume that if a nutrient is good, then more must be better. But nutrients do not work that way. Vitamin C may play supportive roles in general health, recovery, and normal body function, but it should not be treated as a replacement for medical treatment. It is also not wise to use supplements in a vague, hopeful way, without understanding the reason, the dose, and the person's overall condition. What matters most is not chasing one injection, one vitamin, or one dramatic promise. What matters most is building a daily pattern that the body can actually live with. Cancer often pushes people toward extremes. On one side, there is the idea that food does not matter at all, and that people should simply eat whatever they want. On the other side, there is the belief that diet alone can replace surgery, chemotherapy, or other treatment. Both extremes can mislead people. A more grounded path usually lies in combining appropriate medical treatment with practical daily support. Treatment takes place in the hospital, but recovery continues at home. And the hours outside the hospital are filled with ordinary choices about meals, rest, movement, hydration, and emotional stability. Food belongs inside that larger framework. So what are the practical principles worth remembering? First, do not let fear lead to starvation. Undereating weakens the very body that must endure treatment. Second, reduce heavily processed foods. very fast sugars, and foods that create large, unstable swings. Third, build meals around vegetables, beans, and less refined staples when possible, while keeping protein sufficient for the person's actual needs. Fourth, think about meal order. Vegetables first, protein next, starch. Later can be a useful pattern for many people. Fifth, understand that eating strategies must change during treatment. A person eating well and a person struggling to swallow do not need the exact same food rules. Sixth, do not rely on one famous food or one supplement. The body responds to repeated patterns, not isolated hopes. Seventh, include the caregiver in the learning process, so that food becomes support rather than conflict. Food is never just about calories. It also affects confidence, comfort, routine, and the feeling that daily life is still being held together. A steady meal may not look dramatic, but it can help a person feel less helpless. It can make tomorrow more manageable. It can protect enough strength to continue the next step of treatment. That is why nutrition matters. You do not need a perfect diet overnight. You only need a better direction. Reduce the most heavily refined and sugary foods. Eat vegetables more deliberately. Keep protein from disappearing. Stop using fear as a reason to skip meals. Read labels before trusting packaged health foods. And on difficult days, prioritize what the body can actually take in, instead of clinging to rigid ideals. The body does not change in one day, but it often responds to steady direction. Do not leave the table empty because of fear. Do not believe every dramatic promise because of desperation. Build a calm standard that your body can live with. Cancer can make life uncertain, but meals do not have to be chaotic. When the eating pattern becomes steadier, the day often becomes steadier too. And when the day becomes steadier, treatment becomes a little more bearable. In the end, the most important thing is not a perfect food. It is the refusal to abandon the body while it is fighting. One balanced meal may seem small, but small. Steady choices are often what keep strength, dignity, and hope from slipping away.